Hey everyone, welcome back to Low Budget Logistics, your logistics and supply chain explainer. Before you click away, because I know I see you analytics, I want to let you know that I'm going to be on the Pros Who Know industry panel provided by ProShip. So links in the comments below and in the description below. I hope you join me. It's free. We'll be talking about the world of parcel. Today, though, we're going to be talking about a much more fun and maybe less complicated, but who knows, world called of international logistics. Now, we're going to be talking about free trade zones, as you can tell. Now, the world of free trade zones is lots of fun. It has enabled a lot of the globalization that we see right now, and it allows you to get stuff relatively cheaply for lots of reasons. So we'll talk about it. But again, before that, if you're watching, please smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will get into it. Now, free trade zones are the answer to the question of like, whose land is this? And when the answer is, it's nobody's. It's international land. And what a free trade zone is, kind of in concept, is a piece of land, like a physical area that a country has said, this is now international territory. We will not assess taxes or duties or tariffs in this area because it is designated as sort of international territory, like I said. There are really common uses of this are airports, because like right when you go past, let's say customs, if you're flying internationally, you may see a duty-free. That indicates that like that shop is physically located within a spot where duties and taxes are not assessed for the country that currently resides in, because it's technically like international area. It's kind of like embassies, it's international territory. But what it is, kind of as a sort of concept, is a way to stimulate a local economy. Now, here in Texas, there are several areas that are sort of free trade zones. Places like the Port of Houston, Dallas, the DFW airport is its own free trade zone. I think there is an easement here where I live in Austin that actually allows it to be a free trade area. There's lots of kind of gray areas around like the physical definitions of that place. But there are other larger international spaces that are also designated as free trade zones. So the entire city of Hong Kong, when the British set it up, was actually a free trade zone, free trade port. It's called a free port. The country of Singapore, also a free trade zone. And then China has really utilized this along their manufacturing areas in Shenzhen and the surrounding areas to create effect. And so again, anything that is produced within those areas or comes into those areas is no longer subject to the taxes of the domestic country that it is physically a part of. Now, the question that you're probably asking yourself is, why do I care? That's a great question. So let's first map out what's going on here with my handy little graphic. So let's say that this purple dot is where your thingamajig is made, right? In most cases, it's going to be China. We'll just call it China for now. And then it will come into another country, right? Because I'm in the U.S., we'll say it comes into the U.S. At some point between China and the U.S., physically, that shipment will have to be cleared through U.S. customs for many reasons, part of which is to assess tariffs, which we've already talked about in another video. Now, once it comes into the U.S., it has now been cleared in, and it was able to go into commerce in the U.S. And so that company is going to sell it to a customer, and they're going to get it to you, right? That's sort of how that works. But what if you were a company and you had a customer in Canada, right? Let's say that somewhere between here and there is the U.S.-Canada border. Well, then you would have to pay taxes into the U.S. and then another set of taxes into Canada. You don't want to do that. That's expensive. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of paperwork involved in there. But what if this area, right, this red dot, was a free trade area? Well, you could just bring stuff in, not pay taxes until it gets sold to a customer. And then you would only pay taxes on that item going to that customer, which if you watch the fast fashion video, you know that it might not be any kind of customs. You might not have to pay anything at all. And then you would only be paying right to the customer who's going into Canada. Then you would pay the Canadian taxes because this physical area exists outside of the country that it is like geographically inside of. This is a weird concept. Other things that are really important where we see free trade in the international area is if you're trying to combine shipments across multiple countries. Let's say, so in a former life, I sourced product from China, India, Vietnam, Thailand. Thailand and Vietnam are both very geographically close to China. And if I wanted to do something really fun, like combining shipments across those countries, I would have to do that in a free trade area, right? So what would have to happen is, let's add another line here and another little dot in your mind. And those are going to feed into China here in this free trade area. And then I can take shipments that might be parcel and I could put them on a freight aircraft and ship them into the US. You can see now how free trade areas allow logisticians and supply chain professionals to really manipulate what they're doing and really kind of gain a bit of a foothold in what's going on and do some really fun things. Now, free trade areas, again, have to be set up by the country that they are geographically located in. And they exist to stimulate the economies of those local areas, right? Because in China, for instance, the area around Hong Kong, the Chinese started to see like, oh, Hong Kong is extremely prosperous because a lot of things are being manufactured there within the city's borders. We want to do that thing. We want to have that same level of growth. Well, they started parceling off chunks of their geography and saying, hey, anything made in here, we will not tax them in certain ways. But so that what that did is it stimulated the local economy, and a lot of international companies said, oh, I can make stuff there with a huge discount, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so foreign investment flooded into the area, and the local population became richer as a result of that. Now, obviously, the Chinese the Chinese government saw some pretty huge windfalls as a result of that, right? Things like getting buildings built and infrastructure built, and the lives of the population became better as a result of having that free trade area. So what's happening is that a government is going to take, a slight, they're going to invest, right? They're going to take a slight deficit in their taxes, but overall they're going to gain a significant portion by, having stimulated local economy. I can tell you that, for instance, the Port of Houston here in Texas, it is a huge boon to the economy of Houston. It's one of the main reasons why Houston is the fourth largest city in the nation, because the Port of Houston allows a lot of things to come into and out of that area. It stimulates local economy, has a lot of jobs, and so it's really fantastic for that area. Again, same with DFW and the airport. I can tell you that the surrounding area around the DFW airport is huge, and it contains a lot of warehouses that are doing those types of international shipments back and forth. So free trade zones are great. They can kind of get a little tricky. One, you have to be physically located within the geographical permits of that zone. That's important. That makes land a bit more expensive. The other thing is that your operation, right, if you choose to set up in a free trade zone, your operation has to be designated as a free trade area. And so there's a lot of requirements that has to be done there. There's a lot of sort of legal things. Again, I'm not a lawyer. And so there's lots of requirements that the government puts on that area, because they can kind of get screwed over if they don't, if you don't track things right, they can get screwed over. And the government does not like getting screwed. So there's lots of systems that you have to have in place. There's lots of legal loopholes you have to jump through to get the designation. And so a lot of times it might not necessarily be worth it if you are like an e-commerce business who's only selling, or who is primarily selling in the US or in the whatever that domestic market is. It may not be worthwhile for you. But if you are a larger sort of international company, it can be a really great thing, and it's a way to sort of defer a bunch of taxes off of your operation. You can get really tricky. If you want to get down that tricky road, you should talk to a 3PL. Make sure that your 3PL has experience as a free trade zone. They have their brokers. They have all their ducks in a row. Because again, there's a lot of sort of legal requirements that you have to be aware of should you want to take advantage of something like a Section 321 clearance into that country. All right, so all that being said, thank you so much for watching today. Please smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment below if there's something you want me to talk about. Other than that, again, on the Pros Who Know panel, we're going to be discussing sort of surviving the world of the parcel pandemonium. It's going to be a great panel. I'm really excited for it. So links down in the description below, and I hope you have a great day.